The Tim and Tony podcast is brought to you by Tim. Why do you use Bucked Up?
Because Tony, everybody needs a little help in their life. I found out a few years ago that I needed that extra push to actually do my workouts at the level that I wanted to be doing them at and to get the results that I wanted to out of working out. And so, one of the most frustrating things is when you're hitting the gym as hard as your body will allow you to, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. These supplements will really help you get to that next level, get to that next step, and push you to hopefully reach your goals. So that's why I use it.
Bucked Up. It tastes fantastic and it helps you work out. Get it, use it. We have a promo code, right?
We do. Promo code, very easy to remember. It's T and T20. Get 20% off your Bucked Up order. They have supplements, every single one you can think of, shirts, hats, fucking joggers, anything you could possibly want. They've got it.
TNT joggers.
TNT 20. Get 20% off your entire order today online, buckedup.com.
TANDT 20.
Tony, before we had this podcast and we received this next wonderful sponsor, we both struggled with our fashion game, specifically and especially our gym fashion game, which is an underrated part of going to the gym.
Yes.
So please tell the people how they can get more excited about going to the gym and what company they can go to buy some stuff that'll make them feel better.
So what's great is, wow, interesting. We're keeping that in. So all you got to do is go to titlewear.com, because what you're going to find there is you're going to find some of the most comfortable and flattering, might I add, gym wear on the market. They got hoodies, they got sleeveless hoodies, they got tank tops, they got t-shirts, they got shorts, they've got compression pants, and they've got sports bras, they've got leggings, they've got all of it. It's fantastic. The quality is amazing. It's made for workouts, so they're durable, and it's just plain comfortable. So, Tim, what's that promo code?
Very easy to remember. It is TNT15. That's TANDT15. That's 15% off your entire order. You can order one thing. You can order 13 things. You can order 100 fucking things. It's 15% off the entire order at title.com.
And if you want to order 100 fucking things, you do it, and you do it with the promo code TANDT15. Tim, do you care about sustainability?
I do.
Do you care about comfort?
I very much do.
Do you care about style?
A little bit.
Do you care about just looking good?
I really do. I really do care about all those things. I didn't mean to put sustainability. It feels like I put sustainability a little lower on that list than I should have. But I care about those things deeply.
And in fact, sustainability is actually one of the best parts about what I'm about to talk about. Allbirds, they make incredible shoes. They make incredible clothing. They make incredible socks. Tell us about it, Tim.
Welcome to the program, Allbirds. We're happy to have you on board.
Absolutely.
These are, no exaggeration, the most comfortable fucking shoes I've ever worn in my entire life.
And you don't have to just wear them when you're having sex.
That's right. That's right. I can't believe we just put that in an ad. They look great. They feel better, and they're good for the planet. This is a little bit different than we've done in the other ones. We're going to attach the link to go to Allbirds, where you can pick up not only a pair of shoes, a shirt. They're making joggers. They've got shorts, whatever you want. You buy anything on the store, you get a free pair of socks with it on us. If you do go to the store and buy some Allbirds, please use the link that's in the description of this podcast.
Yes, and they don't do deals like this. This is like the only one out there Like, this is the one deal. So that's what we're bringing to you guys. You should do it. Get the stuff because it's a great company and they make great stuff. So, Tim, I have a very important Arizona sports question to ask you.
Oh, these are my favorite.
This is the best Suns team, right?
What I always hate with basketball is like it's the one sport that we always compare teams that come 20 years later to teams in the past. I mean, we don't do this with baseball or football. It's only basketball that we go.
Yep.
Could the 2021 team beat the 2005 team?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's always going to be hard to beat that first team that really was like a 1 seed in my childhood. Yeah, where you get the Joe Johnson, Stoudemire, Nash,
Quentin
all those guys.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough to beat that in terms of like personal, what they personally mean to me. And especially with this team where we're missing our number 1 overall pick for at least a third of the season so far, and we'll probably be missing him some more. I think this is the best coach that we've ever had. I say that very sincerely and not in a hot takey way. I believe that Monty is the best coach we've ever had.
Yeah.
I believe that Chris, he's in the MVP discussions, but unless you're watching it on a night-to-night basis, you don't understand how much he's actually doing for that team. And I love Devin, but this team would not be anywhere near. If I had to get rid of one of them, like just in a vacuum for one season, Chris is more valuable.
It's like the Brady or Belichick thing. We have both, so why, No,
100%. But like I believe Chris was what, second team All NBA last year, second or third, and Booker wasn't on an All NBA team. That's correct to me. That feels right. Like I love Devin. He's still my favorite player, but I mean, in terms of what Chris gives you on a night-to-night basis, he's just incredible. I mean, he's that guy. I was lucky enough to go to a couple games in person. And
very nice tickets too.
Yeah, well, when you go in person, one of the things you get to do is you get to watch shit that's off camera. Right. And if you just stare at him and watch him all game long, I mean, the guy is never not coaching somebody. And this is just, it was just a random ass game against the Hawks, like he's
right.
So,
and yes, he was on NBA second team last year.
Yeah. So that's what I thought. And so, just trying to appreciate the ride right now. I don't know how long this is going to go. Yeah. But we are legitimately, I think we have the best record in the league right now.
We do by 3.5 games since the Warriors lost to the Pacers last night.
And fundamentally, I think this is the best team. Just from a defensive standpoint, because we can put the brakes on people.
Yeah.
In a way that those 2000s teams couldn't. So
I think it's not even really that close. I think obviously the 04-05 team was better on offense, but they were just so lacking in 2 areas. That's having a big, because Amari, he was one of the most dynamic human beings I've ever seen in the paint on offense, but wasn't that great of a defender, and we didn't have a 5. He wasn't a 5. And so we missed that pretty heavily. I honestly do think he could have been a 5 nowadays. But back then, teams were still playing with 2 bigs, and we just didn't have that second big. We tried Kurt Thomas, we tried Tim Thomas, and Tim Thomas was like 6'7". So like we tried a bunch of dudes, but it just never connected. So I think this team is not only better coached, but has a big, has plenty of bigs, and is just an incredible defensive team, which we've never had.
Right. And I think that too with Chris, I think he's the right leader for this team.
Yeah.
And this is not any disrespect to Nash. It's just what Nash was bad at was what the whole team was bad at.
He was bad at defense.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is that when your leader isn't doing something, it's really hard to like get the rest of the guys to sort of buy in. Whereas with Chris, he just gets in people's asses
Yeah.
in a way that Steve didn't and doesn't now as the coach of the Nets.
And has said multiple times on multiple interviews that he should have done it more. Whenever you hear, I don't think there's a player that you're going to hear talk about his career in more of a regretful tone than Steve Nash. He says 100%. He would have changed like 30 different things. So it's obviously when you're that great of a player, you win back-to-back MVPs in the era of LeBron and Kobe. You're somehow able, and I mean, it was early LeBron, but still with Kobe in his prime, and you're still able to win back-to-back MVPs, like, and not win or not even get to an NBA Finals. There's going to be regrets along the way, but just the tone that he speaks about, it's just like, I should have shot more. I should have, been more of a vocal leader. Like, I should have done all 100%. These different things. I should have trained better. I waited way too late to start actually doing the training that saved my back for at least a couple of years. Like, there's all these different things. He's like, man, if I would have just been born like 10 years later, there's a very high likelihood that all of that stuff would have been solved.
And Ayton is a lot like Stoudemire in that, I'm sorry, the guy needs a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
Like, he just needs constant kicks in the ass to keep him going in the right direction. And Stoudemire was a little bit like that, especially early on. He had these weird mental lapses all the fucking time, whereas as talented as he was, he just could never get to that potential. And it makes me really wonder if we would have had someone like Jay or someone like Chris to just light a fire under his ass.
We had Raja Bell. Like, yeah, that but that's guy.
Not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not Chris Paul. Like, I'm sorry. It's not it's not the point guard who's like up your ass on a Tuesday morning at practice. Like, it's just,
it's a fair point.
So it makes me wonder if Stoudemire would have had somebody like that if we could have maximized him in the way that we've been able to maximize Ayton.
I do think the difference, though, is Amari was more basketball talented, whereas Ayton is more just athletically gifted. And that's not to say that Ayton isn't talented and Amari wasn't athletically gifted, but Ayton's on roids. So he's gonna have some advantages. And on that note, Elvis Monroe, please play us in.
In a crowded room, somewhere in town.
All right, so Tim, last time we did Mandalorian episode 1, the inaugural Tim and Tony pod deep dive into both seasons of the Mandalorian. Today, we're going to be going through which episodes?
Yeah, and today we're going to be doing Sex in the City. We're gonna be back to doing Mando. We're doing episodes 2 and 3, like we promised on last week. So hope you guys actually did your homework on this one.
Hopefully everybody did their reading. Yes. So episode 2 is titled The Child. So it starts out with a sort of homage, which, as you know, as a Star Wars lifer, I always love. There's a sort of homage to the to C-3PO and R2 walking through the deserty, mountainy play in up to Jabba's palace in the beginning of episode 6. You got Mando and obviously Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda floating around in his pram, but them walking through, just a really cool shot. And then we get to see why Mando loves the 4-to-1 odds. We see 4 people try to ambush him, and they all either end up dead or passed out or running away. How'd you like that sort of first scene and a half?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that, again, I love so much about television shows is that you can do a whole episode that's just basically, this is why this character is awesome, if you want.
Yeah.
you can spend 30 minutes. He's a really good fighter. And I'm going to show you why he's a really good fighter over and over and over again. So that later on in the show, if he does something miraculous, it actually seems to make sense.
Right.
And it's not just kind of out of nowhere.
And we see that other people are also tracking Baby Yoda, which is a big deal, which we kind of got that with IG-11, but we didn't understand truly how many people are actually tracking him. And then obviously later on in the episode, we see that basically it's the entire town, village area that has a fob. It wasn't
Which, by the way,
Mando.
You know, maybe like some evil warlord criticism here.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I've got a ton of takes on Grief Karga as well as the client. We see Baby Yoda get out of the pram for the first time. More on what he's trying to do later on in the episode, or later on in our reviews. It's not going to be today. But you know, they get the little campfire scene where they're gonna sleep. Baby Yoda gets out of the pram a couple times. He puts it back in, all that stuff. So then they get to the ship, and the Jawas are just sacking the ship. They're ripping it apart to the studs. And then he starts just sniping the shit out of them. And he's 3 for 3. He was 3 for 3 on headshots. It was very impressive.
Which I actually appreciate. You have somebody that loses his cool, that like actually kills people, doesn't just like choke him out and leave him there. Like he's just like, oh, I'm pulling out a gun right now.
So this was one of the cool parts of when I saw this for the first time, and when it first came out. This is really the first story that we're getting, extended story, because obviously we had Rogue One and Solo, but the first extended story about someone that isn't a Sith or a Jedi, in that there's this like historical religious creed that they're following that points them in certain directions in their morality. Now, the Mandalorians very much have their own creed, but it's less.
But he's more like you or I. He's reacting like a human being.
Exactly. He's not acting like this mythical laser sword warrior that can bend shit with his brain. He's reacting like a normal dude. Yeah, he's reacting like a normal dude. I'm a really good shot. These assholes are stealing basically everything off my ship except for the ship itself. But I'm just gonna start shooting their ass because I'm mad.
But again, it shows that not only is he a good fighter, he's also he's a great shot, like you said. And he's got this weapon that can literally pulverize people, which is convenient, so that you don't have to show people dead on the ground, which would have upped the ante on the rating for this one. But
but since it just vaporizes them, it's just like, all right.
I did enjoy as I was watching this. Clearly, the Jawas sound like minions from Despicable Me, which I've never quite caught on to that they stole that from them.
I would really say that the minions sound like Jawas, since Jawas are
that's what I was trying to say.
50 years old, but
that's what I was trying to say. Is that it never really occurred to me how much they actually stole that kind of speaking habits from them. But I did enjoy that there's just Jawas apparently on like every planet, and all they're there for is just to steal shit. That's like their only purpose in Star Wars. Like, what I'd like to really have an idea of is like, where in the galaxy are these fuckers so that I can avoid them?
I can actually answer this for you. They're generally in the Outer Rim. And then as we get later, there's a character that will show up in this show and is a main character in Book Boba Fett that's from the Mid Rim. And she also makes references to Jawas as well. But it's at least my understanding Jawas are going to be mostly on the Outer Rim, so in Tatooine. They're obviously a big thing. This planet isn't Tatooine, but it's also in the Outer Rim. So there you go.
Yeah, they're fucking annoying.
They are.
I was gonna say, like, of all the, like, obviously we have useless creatures here in our own universe, but what a fucking useless.
There's so many different ways I could take that joke. There are so many different ways, but I'm going to leave it out there. But yes, there are plenty of useless creatures on this planet. Some of them are in Congress. But anyways,
Right.
have you seen the theory that minions are or that Jawas are minions?
I haven't seen that theory,
So
but I'm happy that it exists because the similarities are striking when because you just, I haven't heard a Jawa talk since I've seen a Minions movie, like a Despicable Me movie. So it's glaring once you see them talk again. You're like, holy shit.
So it's a whole theory that not only are all Pixar movies in the same universe, but Pixar movies are also, or the Pixar movies are also in the Star Wars universe. There's because
that's actually DreamWorks though.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Minions is in Disney. So
then that's a way less cool theory. That's a bummer. I thought it was Pixar.
Yeah, people mix that up all the time.
I just did, and I have a podcast that's kind of devoted to it. So there you go. He then jumps on their ship to fight them as Baby, and we find out that Baby Yoda's pram is like it turns out it's connected to the little tracker on his wrist, but it'll follow him, which is very, very useful.
Wish I had one of those.
Yeah. So he kills, to my count, 5 Jawas in total. And then they just electrocute his ass. And Baby Yoda's just chilling there. He's fine. He's good. He's hanging out. Mando wakes up and they move on. They go back to the Razor Crest. It's completely torn apart. So where do we go? I told you that we wouldn't be saying bye to Queel forever. What was your feeling when we saw Queel again?
I have spoken. With Queel, I still don't trust this guy. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like him. I think it's probably
because of your distaste of the rural conservative voter. I think that's what it is.
My disdain and how I look down on those deplorables living out there in the middle of nowhere. No, it's probably, I'm kidding, of course. But with him, I think it's mostly that he looks like Mitch McConnell. But no, it's nice that he's the perfect character to have in a story like this. Yeah. Because in Star Wars, it's really hard with the way it's set up to meet quote unquote regular people. You're always meeting with royalty or politicians or decision makers in every single one of these movies. There's not a lot of meeting guy who lives on a hut, who's just retired, who wants to be left the fuck alone. Like, it's always,
he just wants to die in peace.
It's all these people who feel like their destiny is to control the universe in one way or the other.
It's just a bunch of Gryffindor assholes running around trying to make the world what they want it to. Whereas this is very much just like,
this guy's like,
he's just a Hufflepuff, just trying to chill.
Yeah. Like, I have my shit. I just want to be left alone.
Right.
And so I personally appreciate this. This is one of the reasons that I do defend episode 8 a little bit, is because they do try at least to go into and meet normal people in the Star Wars universe. But this is the part that I think that they would do well to learn from, is that not everything is fucking galaxy defining. Some things are like Ant-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy.
And this is why I, for years, have been telling you to watch this show, because that's the exact reason why I knew you would specifically like it, and why a lot of people like it, because the stakes are just lowered. Like, they just are. And
it's just normal.
It's this one dude running around trying not to die and trying to save this child. Like,
try to make some money.
Yeah,
I get it.
He's just trying to get a job that pays enough for fuel. You know what I mean? And
can relate to that.
Yeah. And so we see Baby Yoda eat one of the first random things that he does.
Yeah,
in the
that
series.
Like frog lizard thing.
Yeah, that's not going to be the last time you see that. Though the most popular meme that really came from the show, you're going to get to see in episode 4. So I'm looking forward to you seeing that. But seems like he's got a stomach of steel in most cases. We'll get to that later. Then we find out that apparently Wookiees speak bad Jawa.
They
out of
speak
all,
bad English too, but
well, they don't.
or whatever the fuck they speak in Star Wars land or whatever.
Yeah, I don't. I actually don't have what language they speak. I'll get research on that. But yeah, no. Apparently, Wookiees, they don't speak good Jawa. I can't imagine the Jawas speak good Wookiee. So there's just that there's that ready-made tension between the two.
Yeah, and first of all, Wookiees do understand English.
Very well. They don't speak it, but they understand it very well.
Yeah. Right.
So just like how apparently Han Solo can't speak Wookiee, but he understands it perfectly. So different tongues.
There's all sorts of things that doesn't make sense, but
it's like how I can't roll my R's. It's just kind of a thing. So now it's time. The Jawas just want one thing. Well, they want a couple things before that. They want the Beskar. He's not going to give that up. Then they want the child. He's not going to give that up. They want the egg. What egg? We're going to find out. But at the moment, it's just the egg. So, time to go to the pit of the Mudhorn. He fights the Mudhorn. He saves Baby Yoda a couple times. Though he doesn't have the firepower to fight it. He's about to die. But then, the most exciting moment for those of us that didn't know where the series was going, it was awesome. We get to see Baby Yoda save him, and he saves him because he's a Force user. Stops the Mudhorn, gives Mando enough time to gather himself, and he kills the Mudhorn, and they live happily ever after. No, I'm just kidding. But they get away. We now know that Baby Yoda's Force sensitive, and now he's got to take a nap
for a long time. Yeah,
in the most precious way possible.
It was very much a callback to the do or do not in episode 5.
There's no try.
And yeah, and with the way that and you're like, oh shit, okay, this guy can actually do it.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
He is 50 years old. I'm hoping that he's been doing a couple things other than just laying around in that little crib.
You're gonna love season 2. You just are. We will get more backstory. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, but there's a few questions that get answered in season 2. And it's it's just really cool. It builds out a lot more possibilities for what could have been happening at certain times in stories that we already have movies for. So it's going to be really cool. So then Mando goes into the cave, gets the egg, trades it for all the ship parts. Can I just say the poor Mudhorn?
Yeah, just like minding his own.
It was just hibernating, it looked like, in its cave, minding its own damn business until a fucking Mandalorian and a Force user of the same species as one of the greatest Force users ever comes in and just kills them and then takes their child, their egg. It's fucked up. It really is.
And really, they only wanted it to eat it, which is the other funny thing. Like there was no use for this thing apparently than just cracking it open and slurping it down.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, I hate Jawas. I'm not a big fan.
But there's not a lot of people that like Jawas.
What is there to defend?
I mean, they brought together R2, C3PO, and the Sky and Luke. I mean, that's like the one
but not
useful thing that they did. No.
Yeah. I mean, they're they're accidentally useful. That's it.
Yeah. That's a great headline. Like for if they were ever running for like, city council, accidentally useful.
Or to like run our elections or something.
Yeah, just some little job like that.
Better at it.
So maybe they seem to be organized, which the Democratic Party is not. So they might actually
they're all rowing in the same direction. Yeah, I will say that.
There might be something there actually. Jawas might need to be running our campaign strategy. Queel then helps Mando fix the ship, and they're off. We get the good quote from Queel. I have worked a lifetime to finally be free of servitude. I feel you, Queel. And Ugnaughts, I don't know if you noticed him, and for the listeners, Ugnaughts are usually slaves. So that tracks. Or indentured servitude. Or in indentured servitude. So like that very much tracks. It has a lot of that just quote has a lot of history in Star Wars. Seeing Ugnaught kind of on his own is very rare. So he probably had to do a lot of shit to get there. So yeah, we see Queel. And we see him for now. Got to say bye to him for now.
Yeah, you don't create somebody with that kind of backstory not to use him.
Yeah.
More, but
yeah,
I get.
And I said at the beginning that we were back to Queel. I misspoke. This is when we meet Queel. He'll be back. So anything else about the second episode? I think it's the first episode that really shows where it really signals where the show is going.
The second episode, even though I'm not watching it this way, I can certainly appreciate that by not doing the Netflix model, by doing this every week, we give you something and then you have to come back.
Yep.
It is smart to work in an episode that's like 10 minutes shorter than the rest of them. Like this one. Because you can make all the jokes you want. It's like, oh, did they forget they had an extra episode and they just cut this one? In reality, that could have been what happened. But in terms of building an audience as a strategy, you don't have to leave the cliffhanger on every single episode to keep people coming back. And that's why I prefer this method, because the stories don't have to be as contrived.
Right.
Sometimes you can have mini stories in episodes that just kind of end. And you keep going to the next week and you keep people talking about it until the next week. And the number one thing that you never want to do is you never want people to feel like they have too much of their product, which is something that we're in dangerous proximity to with the NFL, where
you talking about super wild card weekend, Tim? Come on.
No, I think we're very, very close to it. But with this,
if they would have had it on Thursday, it would have been like ultra or some shit,
right?
And we're not ready for that.
Yeah, which I'm sure we're gonna get to. But with this, it's very, I can appreciate that they're like, you know what? We don't have to do something crazy at the end of every single episode. We don't have to drag out episodes that don't need to be dragged out. It's like, look, this chapter needed to be exactly this long. And so that's how long it is. And so that's another benefit to telling stories this way, is that you're not beholden to any kind of time schedule.
And they're really not beholden to any filming time schedule, because this is the first episode that really, really utilizes the volume. I don't know how much you know about the volume, but it's basically a dome that has a bunch of screens that projects the background. And it's like on a whole video game engine, basically, where whenever the cameras move, whenever Mando moves, it moves with them and all that stuff. So there's going to be a lot of what's called golden hour shots in the show, because they can just create it. And it's used in a couple episodes just beautifully. But in this episode, you can really tell, because of the way that the background is, they're shooting in times that you normally would not be able to realistically shoot in real life, because you got multiple takes. Not everything's going to happen at the exact time that you need it to. So the cinematography in this is fucking awesome, because it's a controlled environment. But yeah, see, that was episode 2. Not a lot to talk about. There's a lot more to talk about in episode 3, which is why in the middle episodes we're going to be doing both at the same time. But overall, sounds like you like the second episode.
Yeah.
Episode 3, titled The Sin. We get Grief Karga. He doesn't know if he wants to eat it. He says that the client doesn't know if he wants to eat it or hang on his wall, but he wants Mando to make sure that he goes directly to the client upon his return with the asset. Tim, do we have your microphone back? We do not. All right, everybody, we got Tim back. How's it going, Tim?
We're back. Small technical difficulties out here. Nothing but the best for you folks, though.
We roll with it. So
we're
like
professionals,
I said,
though.
Episode 3, Mandalorian, The Sin, very ominous title. We start. Grief Karga says about the client, doesn't know if he wants to eat it or hang it on his wall, meaning Baby Yoda. But he wants Mando to make sure that he goes directly to the client upon his return. This needs to be finished. This needs to be done. This needs to be completed. The urgency is understandable, especially if you're going to give up as much Beskar as he's about to. But yeah, just an interesting given that we know that every single bounty hunter in the entire seemingly like fucking parsec is after this thing, which if you want a quicker delivery, probably not do that. Just a thought. If you want quick delivery, maybe not have people competing, because then they're going to be fighting each other on the way there and on the way back. The kid might fucking die.
It's terrible efficiency because these people aren't working together. So you gain nothing by sending multiple of them. Right. What you should do is just wait for them to die and then oh shit, another one. Send the next one. By sending them all at once, you're almost guaranteeing that there's going to be issues.
And there are, and we're going to get to them right now. So, but we get Baby Yoda messing with the ship controls for the first time. It's going to be a reoccurring thing. It's very, very cute. So Mando does as he's told and goes directly to the client. Turns out Baby Yoda is very healthy. And to the winner go the spoils, as the client says. The spoils being a metric shit ton of Beskar, relatively speaking. Like, that much Beskar is insane, and that's signaled to us when they get to the Forger, and everyone gets around like, what the fuck? Where did this guy get all this shit?
Except for the one guy that chooses to shit on it because it's got the Imperial symbol on it, which...
Yeah, the Empire symbol. Yeah. He's a special one. And there's all these theories that Boba Fett's one of them. It's fun. Obviously, now that we have the book of Boba Fett, but back then when we had no idea where the show was going, that was a fun little theory in between weeks to talk about. Now, having taken both commission and payment, he did something weird. Tim. He asked further questions, which Grave Karga knows it's against the guild code. The client knows it's against the guild code. And Mando knows it's against the guild code, but just doesn't give a shit because he's starting to care. Starting to care a little bit about this little guy.
Yeah, so these fucking codes. Okay. Who the fuck came up with this rule? Like, this seems like very employer friendly.
Very,
shall we say,
very,
that like your employee just has to drop off whatever the fuck it is, and he's never allowed to ask anything about it.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty good setup for you.
Yeah, really does. It's a very customer's always right mentality.
Yeah, I guess. Just struck me as weird. It was like, yeah, of course he doesn't care. This guy doesn't strike me as somebody who cares about, like, I don't know, these ticky-tack rules. But I mean, what you were saying with the starting to care thing, I mean, when you watch these very quickly, like I have, there's just
very
like, you have to learn what's going on pretty quick. And when you see in the first episode is this guy that's like, really don't want to put you in carbonite, but I fucking will if I have to. Like, he's got a line where, like, when the Jawas steal his shit and then he tries to burn them alive. Like, he's got a line where he will kill you, but it's still like not the first move. Whereas he's kind of got a little soft spot for all these people that he's hunting. It's just a job. It's just my job.
Yep. It's not personal whatsoever. So Mando leaves with the Beskar and heads straight to the Mandalorian Forger. Though they make a point, the new armor is going to bring a lot of eyes. It's going to bring a lot of attention. Mando just doesn't seem to give a shit, which I respect. I really do, because he knows that he can pretty much kill anybody that's there. That's confidence.
Yeah. This seems like a pair of off-whites or something in our world, where it's like,
except for the Beskar's actually useful.
People are going to look to like rob you and shit.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But I mean, the thing with Mando is he's like a super soldier, basically. So, because again, remember, he's a Mandalorian and trained in the Mandalorian ways. So,
This is the way.
this is the way. Now, have you ever chosen, Tim, in your life to be both hunter and prey?
Can't say I have. I mean, that sounds like something that one might try during sex, but it is not something that I have
There's
ever
the cutout. There's the
personally,
cutout of the episode. We just,
personally engaged in. No, I've never been hunter or prey. Prefer to be hunter though.
well, Mando did. Mando chose to do that.
Right.
He's still around. He's
Right.
doing well. Thank you.
Just terrible.
So this is where we get a little insight to who Mando is. Calls Baby Yoda his enemy. I did not see that coming, and I always forget about it in the show. Every time I go back and watch, I forget that at one point in the show he refers to Baby Yoda as his enemy. He doesn't get a signet because he says it wasn't an honorable killing. He'll get some whistling.
It really
birds.
wasn't, which, by the way, just to go back to that, like, even if Yoda didn't, or excuse me, Grogu didn't help him with that shit, you still like killed this thing and stole its egg so that a bunch of Jawas could like get a slurp each of the yolk. So it doesn't seem like an honorable kill either way, but
yeah. So, but we press on. He gets some whistling birds. More on that later in the episode. And we're going to leave some to the foundlings, which, again, we're going to get more on that later. Though, Tim, you have not seen any of Clone Wars, so you don't really know anything about the Mandalorian Society. We know a little bit more because of Clone Wars, but not really anything about the foundlings. So it's a revelation in the story about that whole side of their culture.
Well, Tony, I want to emphasize something really quick for our audience, though, is that when you don't know something, there actually is an option. There's this tool that I use. It's called Google. Okay. And some of you fuckers, when you don't understand something, should take 2 fucking minutes to just look it up because it's free and it's right there. It's not that hard to find good information. So I'm trying to say is that because I didn't know who the Mandalorians were before I watched the series, I did a little bit of digging just so I could have the background in it.
No, I wasn't talking shit.
But no, I know you're not. I'm talking shit to the people who listen to this podcast.
To the listeners. That's what you want.
The customer's not always right. Fucking Google. It's really underrated these days. It's free. It's in your goddamn pocket.
No menu substitutions, guys. No menu substitutions. We know better. We get some flashbacks. More on that later. We see the Clone War era heavy assault droid. Again, hints. Now Mando walks around with his fuck you armor. It's really just it's just a signal that everybody can go fuck themselves. That's really what that armor is. It's really incredible because it's flashy as hell, shiny, and it plays a lot practically into the way that they shoot the show, because since they're in a dome, all the lights reflect off of the armor, and it creates for a great shot. Shimmer. Yeah, and it creates a great shot. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, I know this joke has been made, but it is hilarious that Pedro Pascal gets killed in Game of Thrones for taking his helmet off and then won't take it off in this show at all. I mean, it has to be said that is objectively hilarious, even though I know that it's not intended to be.
It's not intended to be, and I wouldn't say that he got killed for taking his helmet off. I'd say he got killed for being a jackass.
Yeah, but I mean, he got his head fucking crushed,
like a zit.
Yeah, but I think the idea was that if he kept his helmet on, that wouldn't have happened.
Well, the idea is also if he just stabs the dude one more time, then we're good.
I mean, he's an idiot.
Yeah,
it's a frustrating scene.
He's a very sexually open idiot.
Yes. Which I don't think gets enough play in that world, that like the sick fucker who came up with all of this stuff. Like, and what he, like, this is the stuff that he tells us.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
what are the stuff that didn't make the final cut?
Right. Like, what's his Pornhub search look like?
George R.R. Martin seems like a guy that's really into hentai.
Yeah, or something like feet bondage or some weird shit. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if that's a thing, but
we might need to cut that.
Yeah, we probably should.
We might need to cut that.
Jesus. Oh my God.
I went to one level and you decided to one up me. I like that.
Yeah, I apologize.
So Grief, Carl Weathers, he's happy for Mando. He wants to show his gratitude to his most valuable partner.
At the healing baths.
I was just
those sound fun.
Sounds like I need to hit some Twilight heating baths.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your thunder.
No. Sounds like those healing baths are the place to be.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This might be the first guy in Star Wars who's definitively not a virgin. This is one of my favorite theories about Star Wars. Is that it's just a lot of virgins running around in space.
Now, if you, I love that, but if you had watched Clone Wars, you'd know that Obi-Wan Kenobi is very much not a virgin. Him and Asajj Ventress, the Count Dooku assassin, the way that they fight, there's like raw, simmering sexual tension in a kid's cartoon, and it's very weird. But it's like it's there, and they definitely got together.
By the way, Yoda was apparently getting it on too, so good for him.
We'll see, but that's definitely the theory. The theory is that Yoda was
while telling other people.
Well, but okay, so
wrap it up.
I was wondering at one point in these reviews, I was going to have to make this distinction. So the whole Jedi thing is to not make attachments.
Yeah, no, there's nothing against fucking.
There's nothing against one night stands. So that means Yoda he's got notches on his bedpost. Yoda just going around planting the seeds, as Dwight Schrute would say.
Right. But I mean, apparently our guy is he knows his way around town. A town which, by the way, people just seem cool that stormtroopers are hanging out in. But yeah, because they're just walking around. They're like there. Outside. Yeah. And people are just like, this seems fine. Like, it would be like 15 years after Nazi Germany fell if people were just walking around doing goose steps with
it would be like 70 years after a failed insurrection. You still just flew the insurrection flag. Oh, sorry. Wait, what were we talking about?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Star Wars. Mando, he just wants his next job. That's all he wants. He just wants to get his mind off of this because
I respect it.
He's lingering, and he knows he shouldn't be, but he is. And so he's just he needs to get a new job and he needs to get his brain off of it.
Do Mandalorians need water? This is something that occurred to me when he was sitting in the bar. Because like if they don't take off their helmet ever, I would think that there's a mouthpiece on that thing, but I don't see him ever quenching his thirst.
From everything I've read, they do their sustenance consumption either as a group, and they like sort of tilt it up and just kind of, but they don't take it off, or they just all eat alone. So
that's cute.
Yeah. So it makes sense when you get more into the psyche of Mando. He's definitely the kid that ate lunch by himself.
I'm not the guy that likes to do the whole, like people overanalyze this shit way too much, where it's like there was a thing before Fast 7 that was like we've only seen them eat one time, and it's like, okay,
we've seen them drink Coronas like 30. Yeah,
it's like, who the fuck, like you're really like, it's not that hard. It's not worth thinking that much about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did occur to me as he was sitting there. And at these healing baths, I mean, if he can't take any of the armor off, it doesn't sound like he's, I know, but I'm just saying, it doesn't sound like he's going to be enjoying the bath very much.
Well, Well,
Plus, he probably smells like ass under there.
he definitely does. And I'd imagine that the helmet's air conditioned because there's like a seal, right? So I'd
You would think.
imagine there's some air conditioning, and then there's a bathroom in the suit. I would imagine.
Right.
I don't know. Mando makes a point though, the further the better, because again, he just needs to get away. But it's very apparent now to us that Mando does not rigidly follow the guild code, because then for the second time he asks Grief Karga, do you know what they're going to do with the kid? And that's when Carl Weathers is starting to get a little suspicious. And then Carl Weathers mentions, might want to get a Camtono of spice. And by the time you get out of hyperspace, you'll forget all about it. So it sounds like what I need to do is I need to go to this planet in the Outer Rim, need to get a Camtono of spice and head to the Twilight healing baths. Sounds like a good day off to me, at least.
I was going to say, I mean, even in Star Wars, apparently they have their own version of shrooms. Weirdly, there was something called spice that was running around Arizona a long time ago. It was like a synthetic marijuana that people were very concerned about back in the day.
Were they concerned about putting it into Halloween candy?
Or no, my bad. No, spice was the LSD knockoff thing. Never mind.
Gotcha. I mean, you did used to work for the DA, so I mean, there you go.
Well, yeah, for 2 whole months, I learned a lot.
So the little ball from the top of the control leads Mando back to Baby Yoda. He sees it unscrewed, and he's like, "Fuck! All right, well, let's go massacre some stormtroopers and let's go get the kid back, because this just doesn't feel right." He sees the pram in the garbage, and that was it. Once he saw that, he's like, "Oh hell no! Okay, nope. These fuckers are dead. They're all dead. They're gone." He runs through them pretty easily, as one would expect,
but not as easily as some of the other folks that we've seen in Star Wars historically. Other than episode, I'm trying to get the episode. Other than six, they're really not like that scary because they're just like mowing through them.
Because they're Jedi. They're the greatest warriors this world's ever seen. There is like great power relativity in this show. They made a very hard, concerted effort to show the power differences, and you'll get it more later on in the show. But the power difference between this great normal human warrior versus a Jedi.
100%
Jedi can take out battalions of stormtroopers, of droid troopers. Doesn't really matter.
That's what I mean.
But when it comes to normal people, like, yeah, even this Mandalorian, he'll kill them. It's just.
But it took a while. Like, it was actually kind of like, I mean, obviously, it's episode 2. This guy's not going to die, or episode 3. He's not going to die here. Yeah. But you're kind of like, oh, he's got to like either shoot them the right way or like choke them out. Like, he's got to kill this guy.
There's skill, and there isn't just this mystical force that's just kind of telling him what to do. It's actual skill.
And when they fall, you can hear the bones crack, etc.
Yeah, it's the best way I could describe it, having now seen all of Daredevil. It's basically Star Wars' Daredevil. It's their first foray into like, all right, enough with the like gods and shit. Like, let's just see this dude beat the shit out of some people.
Yeah, and it actually, even though there's no blood spatter, which whatever, it still feels true to life in that
we're watching him burn people alive, and we're hearing him break their necks.
Yeah, when people fall, it hurts. It's not just like, oh, that was weird. Fell off a building. I'm just going to stand up now.
Yeah, like, it's not, oh, Mace Windu might still be alive after falling from something that looks like 10 miles up.
According to Samuel L. Jackson.
Which, again, according to Mace Windu is still alive. Can't wait for that shoe to drop. I am actually waiting with bated breath for that.
I would guess it's in the Kenobi series, but we'll see.
I have 1,000,001 different theories about the Kenobi series, and I can't wait to talk about them with you. But the client, He's just trying to get something out of Baby Yoda. He doesn't want Baby Yoda. He doesn't give a shit. Like, yeah, whatever their orders were to keep Baby Yoda alive, but Werner Herzog, he just wants the blood. I would, at this point is what I was guessing is just Baby Yoda's blood.
Yeah.
Mando runs through the stormtroopers pretty easily, but as we discussed, still shows some struggle. He brutally torches one of them, like we said. That was, a choice.
Yep.
Mando spares Dr. Pershing.
And he does run out of gas eventually, which I
does.
appreciate. I was like, okay, he can't just be shooting fire like this all willy-nilly. He's going to run out. It's like, okay, thank God he ran out eventually.
So he spares Dr. Pershing. When we see the Kaminoan patch fully, which again set Star Wars internet ablaze, fire with a million and one different theories. Dr. Pershing clearly doesn't want to kill Baby Yoda. He clearly cares about him, at least in a minimal sense. He's still willing to do operations on a child, but there you go. We get the 4-1 odds again. Yay, whistling birds. We get to see what those are. They're pretty badass. The client in just
seemingly taken from Iron Man, by the way. Reminded me a lot of Iron Man 2, where he's knelt over and then he clicks the I forget what it's called in that show, but it's basically the same deal.
Yeah.
You're just tracking missiles that go through your fucking neck.
Yeah. Pretty brutal. Then the client makes a very curious decision. He sets off all the tracking pops and just like, we're back on. And then Mando's surrounded by Grief Karga and the rest of the bounty hunters in town. Mando shoots his way out to a point, and then Mando squad shows up. The entire little group of Mandalorians that they had, they just pop out.
Before they show up, one of the things that I appreciated about that scene was that one of the jokes about Star Wars and about sci-fi in general is how bad of shooters the bad guys always are. At least this time they had a reason, because you hear a lot of yelling like, don't shoot the kid, because that's actually a big deal. Like, that would make it very hard to shoot somebody if you were trying to shoot them and not the thing that they were holding.
And this dude is fully equipped with Beskar armor that more than holds up to blaster fire.
Right. And so that, I mean, I don't even know if they intentionally did it or not, but I appreciate that. I was like, okay, there's 100 people firing at him, but it makes sense that none of them are hitting it.
One thing that Dave Filoni's always been good at is making the fights make sense and making the different stuff that generally nobody really gives a shit to make sense. He makes that stuff make sense. He gives a rhyme or reason for why shit happens in a practical sense. And so it makes me very happy that he's continued to do that in this show. But yeah, Mando squad pulls up. They basically kill every single bounty hunter in town, which again, that's going to help the bottom dollar, but now they're going to have to leave because they were hiding out. Grief Karga gets shot, which he was kind of asking for it. But maybe not challenge a Mandalorian one-on-one to a pistol drawing contest, but
he shot him in the right spot. Shot him in the Beskar.
Because the Beskar, the one little Beskar plate in Grief Karga's chest pocket, much calling back to like random, American like war stories of, oh yeah, I got shot, through my mouth where the bullet went in one cheek, went out the other cheek, and I was perfectly fine. Or, shot my chest. That's where I kept my Bible, stuff like that. So that was cool to see. And then Mando wants a jetpack. Which, again, more on that later. And Baby Yoda, he gets the ball back, and everybody's happy. What were your thoughts? Again, as I said at the end of episode 2, what were your thoughts at the end of this episode?
So, I mean, obviously, there's some disadvantages to knowing how a story ends, quote unquote. Is that you're like, well, I know that he goes back for starters. So, episode 3.
To be fair, though, that was pretty much the sentiment when we were watching it. But yes,
I mean, I think honestly, I think if I was,
knowing absolutely and kind of knowing are two completely different things. Though.
And I think watching the show live, I might have had the impression that we were just going to be going searching for these precious items week after week after week. Yeah. And so I think that if I watched it, I would have had at least some belief that this was going to be it.
Yeah.
But obviously knowing how the story quote unquote ends so far, the beginning of season 3 is mostly foreplay to what you know is going to eventually happen, which is fine. What's still good about it?
You mean season 1?
Yeah. What's still good? What's still really impressive about it, I guess I'll say, is that one of my critiques of Star Wars is that they go from planet to planet, and not only do they never talk to like a real person who lives there, but they also never really spend enough time there to like give you an idea of what it's like. And they still, by the way, haven't done that here, but they've done more of it. They've spent more time on the planet where you kind of almost have like a geography with it. This is what made, in a separate series, this is what made Game of Thrones so interesting, is that they actually thought through a map of where shit was. And so it adds depth to your stories, because you're not just planet hopping to planet hop to like go from place to place, accomplish a task, leave. Like there's a lot of shit going, like it's a whole planet. There's a lot of shit going on here.
Yeah.
You would imagine. And so to have that piece of it, to have the other piece that I appreciated was when they mention the new Imperial, or whatever they call it, the people who are in charge now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you can just bring it up with them. And he's like, yeah, right.
The core.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, right. That's all very interesting. That's all very well done. It's like they took over, much like us, took over in power for a horrific, evil dictator-like figure. And they're in charge now, and they're not doing all that great of a job of it because it's very hard to lead. So
especially an entire galaxy.
All of that stuff, that's very well done. It's particularly the throwaway lines where it's like, yeah, good luck. Because you get a sense of that line tells you so much about what's happened in 5 years than I think you could do in any other, like it's having the touch like that. Because of course people are going to want to know, given the timeline, the fuck's going on with, like, how's the government being run? Because that's the biggest criticism with 7, is that there's no real setup of what happened after. Yeah. And this kind of gives you a clue. That's like, okay, there were some problems, some hiccups along the way. Obviously, we didn't just blow up, their fleet and then it was all gone. It's like, there's still stormtroopers out here. There's still warlords on these planets.
Yep.
That apparently people are cool with them being there. There was no Nuremberg trials, so to speak, from all these people.
Wow. Choking on the word Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, no, I get choked up at the thought.
Not a fan?
No, Nuremberg's a complicated.
Move on.
Nuremberg's complicated. Y'all should spend some time on that.
Move on.
So there's a lot of touch in it. Again, there's a lot of willingness to go to places that Star Wars is not comfortable being in, which is the non-royalty portion of these stories.
And that's where we are the whole first season we're in that. We get a little bit of the royalty sprinkle in season 2. Because
eventually these stories have to cross paths with important people.
Yeah.
This is, in every fantasy story, like eventually you meet the king, so to speak, or whoever is in charge of whatever the fuck's going on. So I get that.
Yeah.
But in order to tell a complete story, you also have to get into like Podrick in Game of Thrones, right? Like there has to be those types of characters that round it all out for you.
Right.
Because frankly, if it's just a story about kings and queens and prophecies and stuff, it's interesting, but it's lacking something. It's lacking detail. It's lacking substance.
Yeah. I mean, what I love about this show is that it's creating basically a whole new world. And we haven't really got that. I mean, we got that obviously in the original trilogy, and we got it in the prequel trilogy because it was a new world. The writing
Somewhat.
was bad, but it was literally a new world. We didn't really get a new world in 7, 8, 9. We got an extension. And I think that's one of the main problems that a lot of people had implicitly with it, was that it wasn't creation. It was retcon. It was basically an entire trilogy that just retconned everything that we thought of previously. And then that ultimately ended up coming in perfect form, personified in, Sidious Volume 9 or whatever you want to call it. He kept cloning himself, which we, again, in the legend stuff and in the backstories and stuff, we know that Sidious would just keep cloning himself, giving him new body forms. But it's just such a bad trope. It's such a bad trope because then it's like, okay, well then what the fuck is the point of all this? How do we know that he's dead? We don't. Like,
you can only do that so many times. And I think that they've run into the wall where it's officially not okay to do it again, because the coming back when you think they're dead, you have to have a really good reason for it. And it has to be really well thought through. It's one of the reasons, by the way, people fucking hated Thor Dark World, is because you see the scene of Loki being dead and he's, oh, just kidding, he's not. And it's like, okay, then you're just fucking with me to fuck with me. Like that's not a plot device. That's just kidding. Like it doesn't really work as well as I think sometimes writers think in a boardroom.
It's my biggest complaint when you're gonna have something set in a sci-fi or fantasy setting, resurrection just in general. Because now we've established that there are no stakes. Now we've established that anybody can always ever come back, which is why, again, we say this all the time. Please, for the love of God, don't bring back Tony Stark. Please don't do it, because it creates finality, and finality is okay. I said this on the first episode review. It's okay for the main characters to die. It really is. It moves the story along. It gives us something. It allows people to wrap their brain around a story. It allows people to understand that, yeah, there's a beginning, a middle, and end to everything. And if you keep bringing back people, why am I watching?
Because you're too lazy because if you're too lazy to think of something else,
and by the way,
what it looks like.
And by the way, you had a perfect villain in Kylo Ren. You had a perfect villain sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, and so
to build on, because he had this relationship with Luke Skywalker. You even included the line, "You kill me and I will torture you." How did you not then in the next movie have some form of Luke torturing him, or at least him thinking that Luke is torturing him? How do you leave that out? That's such an interesting, deep story decision. Whereas instead, oh yeah, that opening 2 minutes when no word is said, oh yeah, that was Mustafar, isn't that cool? Haha. Why didn't we get a scene with him on Mustafar? You decide,
it's just
you
boom,
decide,
in and out,
but you have to find that out later. They don't even say Mustafar, or they don't say anything when he's there. And it's just like, I don't know why you didn't decide to focus on that, because that would have actually built the story up a lot more. You see Kylo Ren hang out at the Vader temple. You don't think that would have been a cool scene? You don't think Adam Driver as an actor would have been able to portray it in a way that is thought-provoking and emotion-provoking? Of course he would have. He's an amazing actor. I don't understand why we didn't give him more room to breathe. I don't understand that. I don't understand why we didn't build the Rey story arc. Instead, we just used the crutch of the original characters that everybody, pretty much a consensus was, we're good. We're good. We don't need much more.
Here's one of my big takeaways with Mandalorian that's kind of come through in other shows and books that I've been reading. Finality, or climaxes, so to speak, in stories, don't have to be on this ridiculous, grandiose scale.
No.
Not all the time. This is what I think Game of Thrones got wrong, is that they were like, we've got to build up to this super, super high climax so that it'll feel worth it. And it's like, actually not everything. Sometimes the best climaxes are the ones that people can understand because they have a little bit of realism in them. And with this, I can't cope with the idea of trying to break in and steal a kid and get the fuck out. But I can cope with the emotions that he's feeling of like, that sucks. Like I gave away this thing that seems kind of special and I have an attachment to, and is like kind of a puppy dog to me. Like I get that part of it. I get, I get the fear of like basically turning your back on this life that you've built for yourself and how much it can mean to be like, you know what, I'm just going to, all these people that I make money from, who I literally rely on to eat, I'm just going to fuck them over because I'm like, I get that part of it. So the stakes and the way that it's all set up is very smart because there's little bits and pieces of humanness like in it that it's like, okay, I get that. I can't ever relate to like this mythical evil source that's just like cloning himself, and it just
darkness
it's all
versus light. Like that's
it's
not
all too. It's like it's too much. It's like, how about, you know what? This thing's kind of cute. He seems really special. I've never seen anything like it. I don't want him to die. I can get that.
I've got a feeling.
I can get that.
I've got a feeling that those are bad people. I have a feeling that he's a good person, and I can somehow get him away from the bad people. Yeah, let's do it. It's why I will always maintain that The Office unintentionally ended in a macro sense, in a macro story sense, in a perfect way. Because, the boss went and left to go build his own family. He just got up and left. And then they had to figure out how to deal with that. And then, they dealt with it. And they were okay. Like, it... Yeah. And, like, they brought in one boss. Didn't fucking work. We've all had bosses that try to come in, and it just doesn't work. Thankfully, they cycled them out. And, it made it so that the story made sense. And it's very realistic. Now, am I looking to Star Wars to be realistic? No. But I'm looking to Star Wars to be a captivating story. And that is very much more so than most, if not any of the modern live action stuff that we've gotten from Star Wars. It's captivating. It brings you in because there's at least a tinge of realness.
And I appreciate that. It seems like they want to do a better job at this idea that people don't just wake up evil, which is always my issue with the whole Sidious thing. It's kind of like they tried to do a better job with it with Kylo. They tried to do the whole Anakin, like literally the prequel trilogy is the idea is we don't want Darth Vader to be this two-dimensional, he's always evil type figure. But what they really created, what they created was like, well, you did a bad job of doing this background. So what I appreciate with this is it's like, we're not just blowing up planets because we want to blow up planets. It's like, we want this very specific thing for a reason that we don't know yet. But you can see that this very specific thing seems very valuable. And if you could suck the energy out of it some way and give it to somebody, you could see like why somebody who has means to take back over control would want it. But the idea of like people in charge wanting to blow up planets and shit, it's like, okay, by the way, the first time they did it in the original trilogy, it was like, okay, I'm into this.
Makes
this
sense.
seems like a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
To bring that trope back is just like, okay, guys, like I've seen it.
Do we have any new ideas?
Yeah, well, like just something different.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, we're just going to fly through it and blow it up again. It's like, of course you are. Okay, got it.
So like, a thing that I was thinking of when I was watching this is I think what we should start doing, since we're not handing out awards, whenever we get a moment or a character that we want to nominate as we're watching, I think we need to announce to the pod that they've been nominated for that award. And I'd like to nominate the client for the Ted Cruz Award. I just would, because he wants to kill Baby Yoda, and
It's pretty bad.
anybody that wants to do that, they're getting the Ted Cruz. They're at least going to be mentioned for the Ted Cruz Award.
Yeah, I'm holding out.
Yeah,
I'm holding out.
No, he's nominated. He hasn't gotten it. He's nominated. Trust me. There's going to be more people in season 1 that are going to get it.
Yeah, that's my thing.
So I'm very happy that we're doing this. And again, if you're listening at this point, thank you so much for listening. We've got some guests coming up. So for the season 1 finale, as I said, we're going to have Sean Mullady, our favorite red-haired comedian, on. Then we're going to have another special guest for the season 2 premiere. And then we're going to have a very, very, very special guest, being my mother, for the finale of season 2. It's going to be a good time. And that's not to downplay the guests we're having on for season 2, episode 1, but I think she can agree that my mom deserves a couple varies. So, Tim, you got anything else for us for episode 2, the child, and episode 3, the sin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say no offense to these other people, but they didn't give birth to you. So I think that's understandable.
Exactly.
No more fun. I mean, the only, it sounds a little repetitive, but it is true, is that if you just take your time with things, you get better results.
You have no idea how happy I am to hear you saying this. Because what was I telling you? What have I been telling you for the last 3 years about this show?
But I'm just saying, like it's a good analogy in the beginning of 9 where he just flies through Mustafar and we're gone. It's like,
yeah,
dude, you could do, like, the movie could take place there if you wanted to.
The entire fucking movie. The best part of episode 3 is like a 20-minute scene fighting there. Like, why?
Yeah,
why, J.J. Abrams, did we decide?
You said it lasted 3 minutes. It lasted 3 seconds. Like, if they would have just taken a couple minutes on little things like that, like, you could have made it a lot better, made it make a lot more sense other than flash. Like,
because, by the way, J.J. Abrams, you were the one that laid the breadcrumbs for that to be a big deal. You were the one that built this whole story, how Kylo Ren is he collects Vader paraphernalia. He collects his grandfather's shit. He still has his melted mask, and then wears a mask to sort of be a disciple of his. Why then, J.J. Abrams, director of both episode 7 and 9, at the beginning of episode 9, did you decide to just throw that away? I want this podcast to be positive, but when this show gives us perfect examples of way to pace stuff correctly and how to actually tell a story, and then it clearly shows a stark contrast to what happened in movie opportunities that could have capitalized on them beautifully. I think we just need Dave Filoni making all Star Wars content, is I think what we need to do.
Or you need somebody in charge that has the right vision and can tell the higher ups at Disney to fuck themselves when they need to fuck themselves. I mean,
or just say, hey, you know how Kevin Feige's over there, and he's basically the one that
you don't have that guy or that girl. You don't have that person in place at Lucasfilm right now. You don't have the guy with the credibility. I'm sorry, he doesn't exist.
And it hurts my heart. It really does, because Star Wars, there is so much more shit there. The stories lend themselves to much better content, in my opinion, than the Marvel characters, because Marvel characters, generally speaking, they're more campy. Like the movie iterations of all these characters are pretty much the most serious characters that we've seen, outside of a few like fringe offshoots of some comics. This Star Wars shit is legitimately serious. Like, it's legitimately deep, and there's real cultural issues that get discussed in not just like passing, and it's not in just the background. It's the fundamental creation of the story was that the Empire are Nazis and the rebels are the Viet Cong. Like that is what the story was built on. So I will now step off my soapbox. They can find me at tfelix3412. They can find Tim at tleduc32. Next episode is going to be on the next 2 episodes, on 4 and 5. So if you're watching with us, make sure you get those done. And of course, Ted Cruz, the client, and many other characters to come in this episode or in this show. Please go fuck yourself and save Baby Yoda. Elvis Monroe, please play us out.
One day, someday, fiction girl. She's my one day, someday. She's my one day, someday. Gotta have her, gonna call her baby. One day, someday. She's gonna call me baby, gonna have a family. I can see it in her eyes. Our future's so bright. Gonna wake up by his side. One day, someday. She's my one day, someday. Fiction girl. She's my one day, someday.